July 4th is fast approaching, and folks throughout the Midwest are planning their trips to the beach. It's an annual rite of passage, but unfortunately one that can also make you sick. America's beaches are plagued by a sobering legacy of water pollution, including bacteria-laden human and animal waste. This year's report reveals that we still have a lot to do. This is the 22nd year for testing the waters, and the news is not good. The number of beach closing and advisory days in 2011 reached the third highest level in our report's history, totaling more than 23,481 days. More than 2/3 of closings and advisories were issued because bacteria levels in beach water exceeded applicable public health standards, potentially indicating that there's human or animal waste in the water. Nationally, 8% of beach water quality samples came back worse than health standards allowed, and that is a stubbornly high rate, roughly the same as it was last year. The largest known cause of beach water quality impairment is stormwater runoff. It was 46% this year, compared to 36% last year. The 2011 results confirm that our nation's beaches continue to experience significant water pollution that puts swimmers and local economies at risks. Unfortunately, the Great Lakes region had the worst contamination rates, with 11% of beach water samples violating health standards in 2011, much higher than what we see on the coasts. And Ohio is 29th out of 30 states in terms of beach water quality. 22% of samples exceeded national health standards here last year. In Ohio, the beach with the highest percent exceedance rate in 2011 was Edson Creek in Erie County, which had a 52% exceedance rate and 48 closing or advisory days. Two beaches in Cuyahoga County, Edgecliff Beach and Villa Angela State Park, had 50% exceedance rates. Sims Beach had a 47% exceedance rate, and Euclid State Park Beach a 43% exceedance rate. Two of those beaches, Euclid State Park Beach and Villa Angela State Park, both in Cuyahoga County, earned repeat offender status. Over the last 5 years of this report, these two beaches stand out as having persistent contamination problems, with water samples violating public health standards more than 25% of the time from 2007 to 2011. 13 other beaches across the country earned a similar rating. The fact that our beaches have long suffered from pollution isn't new. But what is new is that we now know what to do with it, making our communities literally greener on land. Unfortunately, that knowledge hasn't translated into action by many of the governments charged with protecting the health of our beaches, many of whom are moving too slowly to implement these green solutions. Fortunately, the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District is an exception to that, and I'll be talking a little more about what they're doing later in my remarks. We know that clean beach water is good for public health, that it supports healthy coastal economies that generate billions of dollars and support millions of American jobs, and that the health of our beaches reflects the health of our drinking water. By taking steps to stop the biggest sources of pollution in the waves, we can help keep trips to the beach carefree and support our lucrative Great Lakes tourism industries. Nationally, EPA estimates that more than 10 trillion gallons of untreated stormwater makes its way into our surface waters each year. 850 billion gallons of wastewater, including sewage and stormwater, are released in combined sewer overflows annually. Unfortunately, this dirty stuff makes its way to our beaches, carrying with it a host of bacteria and viruses. And when people dive in, it can make them sick. Beach water pollution causes a range of waterborne illnesses in swimmers, including stomach flu, skin rashes, pink eye, ear, nose, and throat problems, dysentery, hepatitis, respiratory ailments, neurological disorders, and other serious health problems. And these illnesses are especially hard on our most vulnerable residents, our senior citizens, our children, and people with weak immune systems. Throughout the Great Lakes, three problems compound each other to quickly degrade the lakes we rely on so heavily: invasive species, climate change, and failing infrastructure. And I'll take each of those separately. On invasive species, we all know about the threat posed by Asian carp. The Army Corps of Engineers just reported 17 positive results of Asian carp environmental DNA, or eDNA, from water samples taken out of Lake Calumet and the Little Calumet River in Chicago. The administration must move more quickly to address this serious threat. It's important to remember that quagga mussels have already fundamentally changed the ecosystem of the Great Lakes. Recent studies point to a quadrillion of the pinky-sized mussels in the Great Lakes. That's more than all the fish in all the seas on the planet. They clear the water of all the microscopic plants and animals that proliferate in a healthy lake, allowing formerly barren lake bottoms to be overgrown with algae that likely supports E. coli and other pathogen communities to persist longer in the environment. On climate change, every year we see increasing evidence that our climate is changing. NRDC and the Rocky Mountain Climate Organization just released a report that analyzed precipitation patterns over the last 50 years in the Great Lakes. The study found that the annual frequency of 3-inch plus storms increased by 103% from 1961 through 2011. For storms of at least 2 inches, but less than 3 inches in a day, the trend was an 81% increase, and for storms of 1 to 2 inches, a 34% increase. Here in Ohio, the number of storms with 3 inches or more rain increased 30% in the last decade alone. And we know that these increasing precipitation events will trigger more combined sewer overflows. In fact, a recent NRDC report showed that overflows can occur with as little as 1.5 inches of rain. And finally, infrastructure. EPA estimates the Great Lakes states face drinking water and wastewater infrastructure needs of more than $181 billion. Leaky pipes and failing sewers exacerbate the problem of urban stormwater. In Ohio, the unmet need is more than $25 billion, and these infrastructure fixes, as EPA points out, are extremely expensive to fix. That's why the best way to keep much of this pollution out of America's beach water is to prevent it from entering the system to begin with, by investing in smarter green infrastructure on land. Things like porous pavement, green roofs, parks, roadside plantings, and rain gardens that make a real difference to water quality. Green infrastructure captures rain where it falls, storing it or letting it filter back into the ground naturally. This keeps it from running off dirty streets and carrying pollution to the beach, and it keeps it from overflowing sewage systems and triggering overflows. And I'm going to ask Frank to join me for a very quick demonstration of how this works. So this is a pervious paver that NEORSD brought here today. And I'm just going to pour some water down the middle. Thank you, Frank. And that's the example of these smarter green infrastructure and smarter infrastructure practices on land that can make a real difference to our waterways. And not only do they prevent pollution from entering our waterways and our beaches, but they beautify neighborhoods, they cleanse the air, they reduce asthma and heat-related illnesses, they save on heating and cooling costs, and they boost economies and support American jobs, all at the same time. And that's why EPA must take advantage of a once-in-a-generation opportunity to expand the use of green infrastructure in communities nationwide by reforming the national requirements that govern sources of polluted stormwater. EPA will propose those rules in the coming year, and this is an area where Cleveland, and specifically the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, is becoming a real national leader. Frank will go into more detail about what NEORSD is doing, but I just wanted to note that their Project Clean Lake program includes a minimum investment of $42 million in green infrastructure projects. These will include stormwater measures that store, infiltrate, and evapotranspirate stormwater before it even makes its way to the combined sewer system. And that $42 million investment is estimated to capture about 44 million gallons of sewage from flowing into Lake Erie. In addition, EPA must also ensure that strong policies are in place to identify unsafe beach water quality to protect beachgoers from waterborne illnesses. EPA is currently revising its recreational water quality criteria designed to protect swimmers from getting sick. But the agency must strengthen its proposed standards, which would make it acceptable for 1 in 28 swimmers to become ill with gastrointestinal illnesses such as diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting while swimming at U.S. beaches. Additionally, EPA does not adequately consider the risks of other health effects at all, such as rashes and ear, eye, and sinus infections, all of which are commonly experienced by beachgoers. In order to address these flaws, EPA must revise the level of acceptable risk when it finalizes its new standards this fall, so that they are more protective of public health, including safeguarding against other non-gastrointestinal illnesses, again, such as rashes and ear infections. EPA must also utilize the best available science and improve testing methods when developing the final criteria, because a day at the beach shouldn't end up with a trip to the hospital. And while federal action to address stormwater and beach water quality standards is critical, it's important to not lose sight of the role that local governments and residents and beachgoers play in keeping our beaches safe. We understand the problem, we know the solution. The time has passed for us to act for the sake of our public health and our economy. And now I'd like to introduce Frank Greenland from the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, who will tell us more about what NEORSD is doing to improve beach water quality, including its investment in green infrastructure, and Nowcast, a program that predicts water quality. Frank?
Thank you and good morning. I want to thank NRDC for the opportunity to provide a local perspective on the beach bacteria issue. I also want to thank Ohio Concrete for the permeable concrete sample that we used this morning. I want to talk about three areas. I want to put some local perspective on the sources of bacteria at our local beaches. I want to talk about two aggressive programs that the district is implementing, targeting bacteria, dealing with bacteria issues, our long-term combined sewer overflow control program and regional stormwater management program. We'll touch on those. And lastly, I really want to highlight the long-standing efforts the district and other local partners have made to sampling, monitoring, and informing and educating the public about beach bacteria levels and providing adequate notification and warnings to make sure people know, is the beach safe today? First, on the sources of bacteria locally, there are numerous sources, and the NRDC report touches on all of them, and we have all of them. Certainly combined sewer overflow and sanitary sewer overflow is an issue locally. I will touch upon our $3 billion CSO control program, but no question, overflows of raw sewage to area waterways are a problem locally. Stormwater runoff is also a significant problem. And why is stormwater a problem? Really, the reason is twofold. We are a large urban center. We have a large population base. When you look at Lake Erie and the area beaches, there are a number of river systems that bring a lot of potential contamination to Lake Erie. The Rocky River, Cuyahoga, Chagrin, Euclid Creek, Doan Brook, other streams bring pollution sources to the lake, and those pollution sources can impact the beach. Our urban center has an aging infrastructure in terms of sewers and their age. Sanitary combined and storm sewers in this area are typically 70 to 100 plus years old. And just like a house, when the house gets old, the house starts to break down. Same thing with sewers. So these old sewers develop cracks and leaks. Those cracks and leaks can be on private property, on the laterals, the small sewers that bring flow to the main sewers, or these cracks and leaks can be in the main sewers. And when sanitary or combined sewers crack and leak, they leak to storm sewers. And when it rains, storm sewers bring wastewater, the transfer of wastewater to the storm sewers, to the streams, and ultimately to the lake. So aging infrastructure and during rainfall events brings pollutants to our waterways. Some houses in this area, and it's not just this area, there are improper connections. The house's sanitary connection is actually connected to a storm sewer. This situation occurs. We've long been investigating and making corrections locally, another source of bacteria. And when it rains, if you think about when it rains, the landscape is really cleansed, it's washed. We have a lot of impervious surface in this area. We've got a lot of lawns. We have a lot of natural environment waste, pet waste. When it rains, that waste is flushed to area waterways, so there's another source. In the upstream regions of our service area, we have septic systems. There are no sewers. There's on-site septic tanks. Failing septic tanks are another source of bacteria to the area waterways. The rivers bring that bacteria to the beaches. Lastly, the natural environment. These beaches are not chlorinated swimming pools. They're not like going to the rec center to go swimming. These are natural environments. And in our situation particularly, the beaches are home to a large population of waterfowl, whether they're geese, ducks, or gulls. And depending on the season, there's tens or hundreds or thousands of geese daily that sit on the beach and leave things behind. And when they leave things behind, bacteria sinks into the sand. When we get windy days like today, beach sands are stirred up, and the bacteria stored in the beach sands from the waterfowl get into the water column, elevating bacteria levels. So natural sources are also a problem. To deal with this situation, the district's implementing two major, very aggressive programs targeting bacteria and other pollution sources. First is the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Program. Back in 1972, when the district was formed, we estimate that there was over 9 billion gallons of raw sewage from combined sewers being discharged to area waterways. We have steadily whittled that total and cut it in half to about 4.5 billion gallons, but that's not enough. We have a $3 billion program going forward to continue the process of reducing the occurrences and volume of combined sewer overflow. An agreement was struck with the federal government in 2011. We have an aggressive program going forward. The good news for Euclid Beach and Villa Angela is that the Euclid Creek combined sewer overflow tunnel is now under construction. Will become operational in 2015. There are large CSOs to Lake Erie and to Euclid Creek, and this tunnel will capture those combined sewer overflows and take those overflows out of the lake, out of the creek, and bring them to our easterly plant for full treatment. So we will see incremental increases in our ability to capture overflows that are impacting Euclid Beach and Villa Angela. Upon initiation of the tunnel, about 300+ million gallons will be captured immediately. That total grows to over 2 billion gallons on the east side of Cleveland as the district program unfolds. As was mentioned, there is a green infrastructure component in this consent decree that we've signed with the federal government. We're proud of that. It's an innovative approach. We're taking a bad situation locally, foreclosure, vacancy, and trying to make it a good situation. Better management of stormwater at the surface, to keep stormwater out of combined sewer systems, resulting in increased combined sewer overflow reductions. And we want to leave behind community amenities where we can, parks, recreation areas, areas for economic development as we go forward. So this is an aggressive program, 8-year time frame for implementation, and we're proud of the work. The second program I want to talk about is regional stormwater management. We've talked about stormwater being a major source of bacteria to area waterways. The district is poised to launch a regional stormwater management program in 2013. And we are of the mindset that when you look for environmental problems, you will find environmental problems. And a regional stormwater management program puts us in a much better position to deal with stormwater related issues. We will be routinely inspecting, monitoring, maintaining, and improving streams. And when we're out on streams looking for problems, we're going to find problems. And we need to work ourselves and work with our member communities to remediate problems when we see them. Some of them will be bacteria related. Lastly, I want to talk about public information and education. A stormwater program or a CSO program takes a long time to implement. It's important that we educate, inform, and provide the right materials to people on a daily basis so that they can make informed decisions about, should I go to the beach today? Should I swim at the beach today? Now, the district's been a leader for 20 years in terms of the frequency of sampling at the area beaches. We've been sampling these beaches daily for nearly 20 years and posting results. The problem with the sampling program in the past is samples were collected in the morning, analysis was conducted in our laboratory facilities, the results were available 24 hours later. So when you posted information, it was a day late, but it was the best we had at that time. The district has partnered with a number of entities across the area conducting research into two major areas. Could we use computer simulations to predict what the bacteria levels might be on a given day? And we've been successful now in Edgewater Beach, and this year for the first time at Villa Angela Beach, we have predictive capabilities that predict on a daily basis, real time in the morning, what's the condition of water quality at the area beaches today. That's the Nowcast system on the district's website and on other websites, and we're proud of that. We are also conducting continuing research on rapid testing methods. Are there ways to get results instead of in 24 hours, in 1 or 2 hours? And we've seen some success at Villa Angela, and that research continues. We also do a lot of water quality research on the lake. The district's lake sampling boat is in the background. We're very aggressive at trying to understand water quality conditions in this region and making sure the public's informed and educated about our efforts. I want to close with another avenue of it's kind of research and perhaps it's work for the district to do. It's the management of the beach sand issue. A lot of discussions about state parks, metro parks, who manages the beaches. We've had discussions with the metro parks about better beach management techniques in terms of grooming sand, cleaning sand, lifting sand to reduce bacteria contamination in the sands. And that's another avenue we're currently exploring. So those are really the points I wanted to make. I'm not sure how we're taking questions now, but I'm proud of the district's efforts going forward. We have a major program, combined sewer overflow and stormwater management, yet to implement, but the steps are being taken to reduce bacteria.